And of course, Dr. Prasad and uh, Dr. Wagman has really laid down a nice history and the progress and where we are in terms of Ayurveda. So really, they have done an excellent job. So where I come from is a kind of different story. Like, and actually, you might resonate more with where I come from because I had none of this academic, institutional orientation or anything. And it was our journey. And when I say our journey, is my journey and Shilpa, who manages my practice. So our journey has been together. So I'm an independent practitioner, not affiliated with any institute, any hospital, and I can recollect like how my journey started, and I think that will help you to understand like how you can incorporate things or what I have done. And I don't think I'm complete in that sense. I think it's a progress, work in progress. Yes. So I'm an integrative physician, independent physician, practicing in South Carolina, just outside Greater Charlotte area. And
Built a fellowship on integrative
so
medicine.
I kind of grandfathered in there was a period of time where I could grandfather in for take integrative board. So that's what I did 8 years ago.
Based on what?
Based on at that time, of course, I did quite a bit CMEs on the integrative medicine. So that was one of the requirement. And there was another requirement of the practicing hours, which you donate or make part of your practice. So, which was kind of a, when you are grandfathering in, you have to, fulfill those things. That was the time. Now I think that time has passed. And now I think you have to have a 2 years of fellowship and whatnot. So as I mentioned that ours is or mine is a kind of a different journey. I self-learned everything actually, and it's out of curiosity and partly because I was not satisfied with the modern medicine and what it can do. Plus, I had my own search for myself. So it's kind of everything combination of all those factors took me to the integrative medicine and then into Ayurveda. And so that's kind of what my background is. I'm a board certified internist with integrative certification, and now more focus in Ayurveda for last, I would say, 6 to 8 years. The first time really I was impressed by Ayurveda was almost 12, 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, if someone asked me about Ayurveda, I will just say, I don't know. I don't believe. May I have heard about few things, but nothing, zero knowledge. And I think there was a first conference organized by MIU, American Board of Integrative Medicine, and University of Maryland. That was almost 12 years ago. I took that course. And that was out of curiosity, partly because I was not satisfied with what modern medicine is actually offering. And we have to take some CMEs as a part of maintaining the license. So this was an interesting thing. I had my own problems about the heartburns every day. I mean, heartburn, peptic ulcer disease, heartburn, peptic ulcer disease. And we get these samples in the office. I will use left and right. But when I was exposed to this course, first course, then after understanding the dosha philosophy, I thought, wow. And I kind of implemented on myself. In fact, that was a time when I knew who I am for the first time as a dosha and what is my operating system. So dosha is kind of an operating system, how I would react to something comes in front of me, how would I react? And Shilpa and I kind of understood each other actually, to be very honest, by understanding the dosha and in that sense. So that was kind of my own journey. I think it is very important that we feel how much it is important to us once we are convinced about ourselves, we can confidently talk to our patient. If there is only one message out of this presentation, is the first slide: Om equals or recycle with MC square. And I think that is a very, very foundational principle of Ayurveda or Vedic healing system. And Ayurveda is a holistic consciousness based healing system as compared to allopathy, which is more focusing on the MC square component, the materialistic component, which we can touch, feel, see, double blind control trials we are talking about. If you actually Google right now, what is the two most problematic questions in front of science, it will say, what is consciousness? So science at this point has not been able to explain the consciousness. Dr. Hagelin will talk more about it, but I just wanted to start with this one important foundational principle, that this is a consciousness-based science. The burden of healthcare, which Dr. Prasad has already mentioned, healthcare cost 18% of national GDP, which is bypassing the our defense budget. And most of the chronic diseases are either preventable or manageable through the nutritional, non-pharmaceutical therapies and lifestyle modification. That's not new for us. This is the another beauty. And I think if we take some message from my presentation, is the first slide and third slide. Look at the actual definition of health from Ayurvedic perspective. And it is the Sanskrit sloka. Samadosha samagni samadhatu malakriya prasanna atma indriya manaha swastya iti abhidyachi. Now again, in terms of, Arti, you are mentioning about the raga are related with the chakra. So if this is a knowledge chakra, the Ajni chakra, basically goes with the Rag Bhopali. So this is a homework for you, that you are going to sing this sloka in Rag Bhopali. But anyway, think about this definition versus the WHO definition of health, which is health is not merely an absence of disease, but it is a positive state of well-being, physical, social, spiritual. Still, there is a vagueness to it. There is a broad aspect, but the WHO defines health versus the Ayurveda defines health in such a detailed way. Yes. So samadosha means balanced dosha. Samagni means balanced metabolism. Samadhatu means balanced systems, or there are 7 different types of tissues in the body which are called dhatu. Malakriya, there are 4 kind of excretions from the body which has to be balanced. The GI tract, the skin, the exhalation, and sweating. Again, samadosha, samagni, samadhatu, malakriya. The next one, prasanna atma indriya manaha, mind, body, spirit. Prasanna means bliss. That is the definition of ultimate health. If you just digest this as a physician, and if we just focus on this thing, that's what will achieve the ultimate well-being or wellness, how we define. So it becomes really so, once we start connecting the dot in a way, and when the dosha concept was already mentioned, I will mention about Agni. So there are 13 type of Agni. We probably know about Jatharagni, which is the digestion, but each dhatu, 7 different dhatus, has metabolism also. And Panchbhuta, which are five basic elements, also their metabolism. So 7 plus 5 plus 1, 13 metabolism locations. That is important. When that is balanced, Samadhatu, I talked about 7 different tissues. And I'll talk about which 7 tissues, but it will correlate with what we learned in our modern medicine and Malakriya. And then the second sentence is the balance mind body. Prasanna means bliss. Very, very important word is the bliss. And I think in the spiritual sense, we talk about Satchit Anand, which is also bliss in a way. And I think I don't have time enough, but Satchit Anand, if you know about the God particle or Higgs boson particle, that's kind of a correlation which probably Dr. Hagelin might talk about. But I just wanted to emphasize this because this is the foundation how we can manage chronic diseases in a day-to-day practice. Now the correlation between functional medicine and Ayurveda. So and I think you might be able to connect this dot in a different way. Again, we talked about the definition of health from Ayurvedic concept. In the functional medicine, they talk about the same processes, the assimilation, defense and repair, energy production, biotransformation. So energy production, biotransformation, they are all metabolism. The transportation and communication are all movements. The immunity and the structure are all kapha elements. So the functional medicine, the foundation of functional medicine actually comes from the principles of Ayurveda. Um, this is just some information about 7 different dhatus. You can call rasa dhatu is all plasma and all fluid in the body. Called rasa dhatu, rakta dhatu is the blood, mans dhatu muscles, meda dhatu is fat, asthi bone, majja dhatu is bone marrow and nervous system, sukra dhatu is all reproductive system. So in a way, if you compare our anatomy and physiology, it it kind of is already described in Ayurveda in a different way. So dhatu in one way we can call it a different tissues. I will not go much into it. I think Dr. Shankari Vegmana has already gone in detail. Uh, Again, revising kapha, earth plus water, pitta, fire in the water or fire and water, vata is wind and space or wind in the space. But the key part is how do we correlate this with the what we have learned? That is important. So if you think about our body structure, when we learn anatomy and physiology, it is there is structure, there is a movement, and there is a metabolism. There is nothing else than these 3 things. Structure represents kapha, movement represents vata, metabolism represents pitta. These are just some of the characteristics. I would not go more in detail, but it just depicts that when particular dosha goes out of balance, what happens? Typically, kapha has a difficulty in losing weight, obesity, depression, diabetes, hyperlipidemia. Pitta, when go out of balance, migraine headaches, cardiovascular problems, skin problem, and ophthalmology problem, especially the inflammation. Vata, anxiety, insomnia, ADHD, tremors, Parkinsonism, constipation, dry skin, vertigo. There's a new term, the spots, atrial fibrillation, dry skin. Um, so according to Ayurveda, I'm just going a little bit more detail in there are 6 stages of the disease. The first stage is accumulation, second is imbalance, third is dissemination, fourth is localization, fifth is when we see manifestation, sixth is a chronic problem. I think if we catch the disease in the first three phase, we can really do a great job in reversing or managing the disease. Once it is in the stage 5 or 6, very difficult. So the role of Ayurveda truly actually in our day-to-day practice will be in first three phase, accumulation, imbalance, dissemination phase. Once it start localizing, once it start manifesting, and then it becomes chronic, very hard to kind of manage it. So one more thing about the concept of ama and inflammation, very, very important concept. So, right now we talk about inflammation. In fact, most of the new clinical research are actually on inflammation. Now, the concept of inflammation already has been described in Ayurveda in form of ama. And what ama is basically a poorly digested, inadequately digested food. Now, when we say inadequately digested food, it's not about, they are not talking about only Jaఠરાગ્નિ, or they are not talking about only GI tract. It's all about the metabolism, and whether it is properly metabolized, improperly metabolized, and if it is not, that material is going to be ultimately become a sludge, and that material is going to get deposited in different tissues. An example is that if it is a degenerative in the joint, it will become arthritis. If it is in the blood or blood vessel, it will become atherosclerosis. If it is in form of tau protein, it might become dementia, Parkinson, and so forth. So, like amyloidosis is another example of this sludge or inflammation or ama in a way. And really, therefore, there is a big focus in Ayurveda about prevention of ama. And of course, that includes diet, and that includes lifestyle, dincharya, but also then there are herbs which also are utilized to improve the metabolism. And I think there will be, if not tomorrow or in the afternoon, I think there, could be some more discussion on the herbs which are used in promoting the digestion. When I say digestion in Ayurveda, it is metabolism, by the way. So we don't kind of confuse that digestion only with the GI tract digestion. And I think that is a very, very important thing. So as you see, if there is ama built up, we call it chronic inflammation. The clinical impact will be metabolic dysfunction and immune imbalance. If there is ama in joint, it will create rheumatoid arthritis, clinical impact, inflammation, swelling. If it is in the blood vessel, atherosclerosis. If it is in the fat tissue or otherwise blood, which is called prameha, which is type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, tissue toxicity. Um, so really, I mean, we can talk about so many chronic disease management, but with the understanding of this pathophysiology, I just thought that with the time constraint, I just wanted to focus on the diabetes component, because I think diabetes is pretty common. In fact, I think is one of the, in Indian Americans, frankly speaking, very high incidence of type 2 diabetes. So, and I have kind of compared with the modern medicine and the Ayurvedic concept of diabetes. So when it comes to pathophysiology, from our modern medicine point of view, it's an metabolic disorder which causes insulin resistance and impaired insulin secretion. That's how we understand from the modern medical point of view. From Ayurvedic component, it is interpreted as impaired agni or impaired metabolism in the prithvi and water, which means the kapha, kapha dosha, leading to impaired agni in a rakta, meda, and mansa dhatu. Means rakta means blood, causing hyperglycemia. Meda and mansa yes. So fat and the skeletal-muscular system that leads to high blood sugar, obesity, weakness. So this is how Ayurveda understands as diabetes. Now, this is not it. Actually, and I'm not the expert, but according in Ayurveda, there are multiple types of diabetes. Also, that there is a type 1, how it is described in Ayurveda, and so forth. I'm just talking about type 2 diabetes, which as we deal with them more commonly. That's why I have limited to type 2 diabetes, but there is a more depth to diabetes, types of diabetes, pathophysiology, and their treatment. But I'm just kind of suggesting this so that we can understand in our day-to-day practice the contributing factor for type 2 diabetes, according to modern medicine, of course, lifestyle, diet, physical activity. Naturally, there is some predisposition, maybe family history and whatnot. For Ayurveda, same thing, but as Dr. Shankri explained about Dincharya, that most of our lifestyle, we don't eat in the optimal time, pitta time. So that's just one of these kind of very important piece that also factors into it in the diabetic pathophysiology. These are um, some of the medications which are available, in the management of diabetes from the diabetes component is the Charyata. Now, of course, I think in every state in India, the Charyata is probably known differently. I know in Gujarat it is called Charyatu, which is actually, if you Google this, king of bitter, that is Charyatu, is one of the very bitter kind of a plant and herb and whatnot. But it support the digestion, detoxification. Guduchi is another compound, and there are plenty of this is just a very small list actually. I was thinking, let me see. I was trying to go down. Oh, the second component, which is glycacare, is actually one of the product on which I was going to mention a study done, published in 2020 in British Journal of Medicine. And it has a slightly different combination of medicine, which actually you can see it also includes cinnamon, actually. And it also includes Gymnema sylvestra, which is kind of very well-known herb. Um, this was the study which I wanted to mention, which was published in British Medical Journal in 2021. And it compares this glycocare, which is a combination of these 6 different Ayurvedic herbs, with metformin. And it was a very nicely done trial, I would say. And you can see it was randomized, double-blind, 4-month study comparing glycacare with this metformin. I think this was one of your question, whether there are any actual clinical trial.
Now, Glycacare has all these things they have to take or just one product?
So glycacare, somebody actually made it in a one capsule. Oh. With all 6 different compounds. There are many such compounds available. I think that's something that I myself actually also want to study more and more. But I thought that this was one study which was done nicely, which was actually published in a good journal, and it compared with the metformin. So, example in a day-to-day practice, say for example, a patient with pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome or hemoglobin A1C up to 7, I think the glycacare is a good option in a way, because it compares. It really works just like metformin. Now,
I have one question to answer that. Um, metformin, even in the longevity studies, they have found that people who take metformin, their lifespan is increased. So, in that way, and metformin is not expensive.
True.
So, why not? I mean, I thought that one would like to select metformin unless and until they cannot take it.
Mhm. So, which is there are studies on the anti-aging and role of metformin. I have seen both sides of results also. One of the problem with metformin, actually with vegetarians, one of the side effect is the B12 deficiency, so common in the vegetarians who are taking metformin, actually. So that's number one. Number two, say for example we have started someone on metformin and the hemoglobin A1C is still not that much improving, we can still add this. There is
Yes.
no contraindication, it doesn't conflict in a way. So before we go on to another medicine, again, see, we have to think it differently, that yes, there is something that our patient, and I'm practicing in South Carolina, they would definitely question me that why you are not using metformin. So I would start them on metformin with the some of the side effect or intolerance problem. Many people, I would say more
Diarrhea.
than 10-15% of the people has a GI intolerance, diarrhea issue also with metformin. Some of the vegetarians will have a actually B12 deficiency, and it may not be even enough, or they may not be able to tolerate the full dose. So many of them will tolerate 500 or maybe 1 gram. After that, they may not be able to tolerate. That is where this can come into play as a complementary, supplementary treatment. Remember, this is not it, it's diet, lifestyle. In fact, there are some yogasans, which postures, which is supposed to improve the digestion in a way. Those are should be also part of our completeness or complete treatment. It's not only about the eating between 10 to 2. That's actually one of the biggest challenge in our normal American routine lifestyle. Who eats the major meal between 10 to 2? Most of our own diet is actually goes more in the evening, which is an issue. So I think those are still the gold standard. We cannot really undermine the importance of diet, lifestyle, and whatnot. But I think there is a we were asking for some double blind control trials, and there are actually many more. I just wanted to bring out something. The issue with the Ayurvedic herbs is the financial component. Who is going to do these trials? Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to tell you that please eat Karela and Jambun and these and that, there is no money because it's already available. So I think to ask for a double-blind control trial on certain thing is just really, unless the government themselves take on it, which we are hoping, and we are working with the Ministry of Ayush that they sponsor these big trials, and that's kind of a challenge in a way. But the financial consideration will not allow the double-blind control trial. But
What is the definition of pre-diabetic? Pre-diabetic.
so the pre-diabetes, so the definition of diabetes is if hemoglobin A1C of more than 6.5 or
6.4.
6.4, sorry, and or rather a fasting blood sugar of 126 twice venous blood, by the way. If it is more than that, and then of course there is a the postprandial or glucose challenge test, which generally we don't do except in a pregnancy, that would be diabetes. Now normal hemoglobin A1C, different labs, but 5.5 we can call 5.5 is a no or less is a normal hemoglobin. So between 5.5 to 6.5,
6.3.
6.4, sorry.
6.3, because 6.4 and above is
Yeah,
diabetes.
6.39 in a way
No,
would consider
I
pre-diabetes.
put them on metformin.
Well,
you can,
you
you may not.
ideally not, but a lot of people are doing it. in a way. But so that's the area, very nice zone where Ayurvedic intervention would be very, very effective.
Yeah.
This pre-diabetic, we call it metabolic syndrome. Actually, many of the patients, when they come here and their hemoglobin A1C is, say, for example, 6.7, and when we start talking about, oh, you have now diabetes, and we start this and what, they would be resistant. This is an alternative. We can convince in a way that, look, this is a natural medicine. This is not considered a pharmaceutical intervention. They will be happy to take the glycocare than metformin, because there is a resistance, or I would say a kind of inertia to even accept that they have a diabetes.
Yeah.
So a hemoglobin A1C, when we see this day in, day out in primary care, when the hemoglobin A1C was 6, next time it is 6.7, and we start talking about diabetes, they don't want to accept that designation that you are diabetic. And that's also where I think we can talk about the Ayurvedic intervention.
This glycogen.
So I think if there was a detailed literature of the trial, again, I think,
I'm just saying shouldn't be.
Yeah, seems okay, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean.
So compared
One more
to metformin, this,
Basically, the others like Guruchi, I had 2 patients who had acute liver failure, 2000. So we should be careful.
Jambu speed
Ashwagandha, you should be very careful.
is known to cause liver disease.
Yeah, I have so many.
so
No, there's one more point there you have to take in. Malpractice insurance. You give an alternative medicine, and if that gives what, the malpractice insurance will be the most hazardous thing, because they've got to be accepted by FDA, so that even if there is this thing, you can protect yourself. If it is not accepted by FDA and there is a problem, you cannot protect yourself.
now I'll come to,
FDA only gets involved if there is a reaction or bad effect. FDA has declared that they will not be involved in
No,
this
they
nutraceutical
don't. They don't.
because you cannot claim, you cannot say that a particular herb is going to cure your disease. You cannot say that.
No,
you have to
those
say it
things you
affects your-
cannot say.
Yeah.
But what I'm
Yeah.
saying, how a doctor protects himself if he uses the alternative medicine, because this is not under regulation by FDA, and that is why insurance companies will jump on you.
I
This is-
always
No.
provide a disclaimer.
so,
When
so,
first
you know,
starting,
and I'm coming to that piece, the pragmatism or practical issues with the how do we practice the integrative medicine, especially the Ayurvedic component, and I'll come to that point. But now, since that is the question, so that is where the integrative certification, integrative medicine, CMEs, you are already a licensed physician, and because of the work Dr. Prasad and many of others have done, I think it gives a very good umbrella in any state that we are following. There is actually now textbook of integrative medicine also. So it is not as it used to be 15 years ago or 10 years ago. So you're talking about malpractice or you are talking about FDA concern. No, you are trained now. You are licensed physician, and because you have taken this, even if you are not certified, but you have taken enough CMEs, which are available now, I think that you can say, look, that this is what we think that it can help out, and you can sort of have some trials behind you also. So it's not. I don't think we need to scare. As a physician, I'm practicing for last 10 years, I would say, and more openly for last 5 years. And my routine is that if there is a new patient comes in my office, my first thing is, along with the other intake, I will give them homework. I will give them 2 words, Ayurveda and dosha. That is my homework to them. When they come in 2 weeks, we talk more on it. And it's really, even my staff, I have trained my staff. Now I'm practicing in a Bible belt where even my staff, when I was talking to them, had not heard about the word Ayurveda or
Yeah,
dosha or anything. So it's a training part. That's one challenge. But I think nowadays, they see on a TV ad ashwagandha or turmeric. They now know that these are the Ayurvedic compounds which are already available in the market. So suggesting them, and it's not about we only say the Ayurvedic compound. I actually suggest, as an integrative physician, I'll suggest a lot of other things too, in a ways that can also help in a way. So,
So, I think as what we are discussing is we all have to remember at the end of the day, we are a responsible physician. We are going to do the right thing by the patient, right? So we are not going to start prescribing alternative things to people when we have proven treatments which they need now. So these will be additional things in the hope that they will be able
yeah,
to
I
use.
understand.
Yes.
and an example I gave you is the right example. Someone who had hemoglobin A1C of 6, which was pre-diabetes, now their hemoglobin A1C is 6.6, 6.7,
It is
and they are,
diabetic.
yeah. So when they are diabetic, they say, first of all, they have a hard time. This is actual practical reality what occurs.
I
They have
know.
a hard time to accept that they are diabetic, number one. We talk about metformin, and the first thing they will say, is there anything else we can do?
You
And
do
we
say.
document that. So we document that we have this discussion. Patient is diabetic but doesn't want to take metformin or any other medicine. They would like to try them alternatives. That's
Then
where it opens up. Once we document that very clearly, it should not be problem, especially now with licensed physician. We are also are has taken some CMEs. This is actually CME for you in a way that you can say, look, yes, I do have a knowledge of dosha, prakriti, and some herbs which are used or can be used in day-to-day practice. Then I don't think there is any problem.
I have a basic question. I don't know whoever decided this A1C and blood sugar levels
Why is it?
because
pharmaceutical
pardon,
company.
I don't want to get into that one. But from 6.5 to 6.6, you become diabetic, and 6.5 to 6.4, you are not a diabetic. I think it should be individualized because in my practice, I have seen patients with hemoglobin of A1C of 8 and
No symptoms.
no symptoms, no other.
There may not be any.
There may not be symptoms.
But let that be.
Up to 10,
They
there
don't
are
have any
nine,
other issues at
12
all.
even.
And no matter what you try, their A1C doesn't come down, no matter. So sometimes I feel that by giving our medication, allopathic medication, we are doing more harm than something good for them.
So that's where I actually forgot to mention that according to the modern medicine, our understanding of diabetes is pancreatic dysfunction and hyperglycemia. According to the diabetes or Ayurveda, the whole concept of diabetes is different. And I think Dr. Wegman and Dr. Prasad can go more in detail.
Standing of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. You don't talk about pancreatic. It's the resistance difference.
Yeah, it goes beyond it. It is primarily an accumulation problem in the Rakta, Meda, and Mamsa Dhatu. And if we can address that the disease, and so it's not about, so the concept of diabetes, and if you can add on to it, that will be nice, if you can add on to it. But you are right about it, that we measure everything diabetes control uncontrol based on hemoglobin A1C. From Ayurvedic concept, it is much more holistic.
One other question. What happens is in diabetes that some of these medications are so costly that individual, so many patients cannot even afford it.
True.
So if you can,
Yeah,
and so many years now, the allopathic medications have, allopathic medicine has realized that lifestyle modification is number one. evidence
True.
and diabetes, the heart failure, so many other things.
I think the other part of a pharmaceutical company, some prescribe their brain is one of the example of using side effect for as a treatment.
And management actually now GLP-1s have jumped out of all and has become a second choice. Metformin still first choice primarily because it is cheaper, but they are talking about GLP-1 more as a first line actually in so many other patients. So you are right that how this science and the recommendations kind of emerge uh, over time. Dr. Wegman, you had something to.
To understand the Ayurvedic paradigm that you've brought out, and it relates back also to the sluggish digestion, Agni. So even with whatever they're taking, if you're not able to absorb it, then it's going to affect you in so many different ways. So we would work on the Agni part.
That
Madhumeta
microbiome.
is number one. So if somebody has an 8 and they're not showing anything, there's something that's going on with
Yes.
Agni. So you would also, in anything in the Ayurvedic paradigm, you wouldn't just give one thing for diabetes. You would also be supporting something for Amapachana. You would do something for Agni Dipana. You would do something for the mind. You would also do something, for that stress management. So it's like a full, everything is together for absorption. And just one other point, super quick, somebody had mentioned about, we see ashwagandha in the market, we see turmeric in the market, we see so many different gummies in the market. Ayurveda also has an understanding of how these herbs are prepared. So you can have it as a vati, you can have tablet, you can have it as an rishta, you can have it as a gritam, right? So like ashwagandha gritam is different from ashwagandha powder, it's different from ashwagandha in a gummy. It's not meant for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
How do we take it? When do you take it? How long are you taking? What's the dosage? What other things are there to help it is also important. So when we look at the studies, it's sometimes hard if we see, oh, this is not so good from this perspective. We also have to understand Ayurveda has given so many different nuances for when that herb is grown, when it's picked, how it's processed, what other herbs are there with it, how it's taken. Is there an anupana with that ashwagandha of how, so we can always target digestion and metabolism with Agni.
So going back, the concept of the pathophysiology of diabetes in a modern medicine, we focus on pancreas, insulin resistance, metabolism. In Ayurveda, the concept of Agni and accumulation, those are actually it are more holistic, more broad based, and when we approach accordingly, it has a much better result with minimal side effect because these are plants. Why these plants? Because these plants also has a similar dosha which is going to balance the abnormal or vikruti dosha. So it is all about the nature and what kind of bioenergy is in the plant versus the what imbalance is. And I will quickly go to the um, um, same thing, I just already mentioned that nowadays in the modern medicine, diet, metformin, GLP-1 and SGLT2 versus the Ayurvedic concept, we talk about Agni and how Dincharya and whatnot. See, even the yoga posture, some of the Surya Namaskar is one of them. Actually, there is another posture which we did in the morning. It's the spinal twist. Now, of course, that is called spinal twist, but if you think about what it is done, is basically squeezing the liver and spleen on one or the other side. And if you do it so regularly, some people who have a poor digestion or these or that, they will feel the difference because the whole liver is squeezed for 10, 15 seconds. And then when it is unleashed, the liver metabolism, blood supply changes. So these are some of the postures which are also known to improve the digestion and whatnot. So there are postures which are stimulating posture. There are yoga posture, which are calming postures. And I think combination of that is important. One more disease which is also very common from diabetes type 2 is to GERD. Again, we talk about treatment, PPIs and H2 antagonist and sucral fat. These are all based on controlling the acid. First of all, a lot of GI problems are not over acid. There are actually
It's
under
the
agni,
open acid,
under
yes.
agni, or sort of a poor digestion or poor jaఠragni in a way is also responsible.
Obesity, too.
Yes. So again, this is part of one of my example. What I do, I still have. So I used to have a lot of GERD and pitta related, heartburns and whatnot. What has helped me is to understanding myself, changing the diet to some degree. But I also keep funnel seed and coconut flakes with me. That is one of the very calming, easily available. You can keep in the car. But the key part is this: see those four elements: the funnel seeds, coconut, gulkan, which is the rose petal, and honey. And takmaria is a holy basil seed. Now, if you see takmaria, if you put that in the water, it will form a layer. That layer around takmaria is a kind of a gelatin gel. That is an excellent herb for stomach. So that's why if you remember our one of the famous dessert called faluda. So faluda, I feel like faluda is made from coconut milk, takmaria, and rose petals. That is one of the best dessert for gastric problems, gastric acid in a way. Yeah, but in the mukhwas also same thing. If you think there is a gulkan and funnel seed. So that is other part of the mukhwas are carminative, which are anti-gas. So when we talk about ajwain or jeera or some of those things are anti-gas, and these two are more supportive or neutralizing the over acid problem. So I mean, when we talk about pan, it makes sense, and we feel also now not possible. So, but this is just another chronic diseases which I think we see so commonly. And I'm telling you, in Bible Belt, when I talk and give this kind of a suggestion to my patient who are really in from the Bible Belt, they love it actually. So really, when we talk about Ayurveda and dosha and personally, I had not a single adverse reaction or feedback from the patient as if they are connecting Ayurveda with Hinduism or anything. Because Ayurveda is so secular in that nature, is so completely focused on the healing, understanding the mind, body, spirit, bioenergy. I mean, it's just so natural. I don't see any really resistance.
Yeah, it's not talking about religion.
Yeah, and therefore, I actually had no issue. I don't see any issue from malpractice component or for that matter, anybody doing this. I will not go much into this, but these are the four, again, how to manage the chronic disease. Balance dosha, optimize Agni, detox body, which we saw as a panchkarma, and yoga and meditation and whatnot. I think we are running out of
It's
time.
okay, you can finish the next
But
20 minutes.
I wanted to quickly mention this circadian rhythm component because in 2017 there was a Nobel Prize given to Jeffrey Hall on this biological clock.
Yeah.
So Dr. Shankri Wegman just mentioned about this biological clock that was already a kind of proved in a way. We talk about Ayurveda talks about biological clock, dincharya. The Nobel Prize in 2017 really was given on this biological clock. I forgot to mention another trial which I was so impressed and I started my journey was a trial published in 2015 in the Nature magazine, connecting genome with Prakriti.
Yeah.
Meaning each Prakriti or dosha we call Pitta Vata has a typical genome correlated. You're talking about, trials. Trials are there already. I think it's probably not connecting to the mainstream practicing physician yet. And as Dr. Prasad is mentioning, who else other than we as Indian American physician need to carry this forward? But that's just about the. Not going to go into dincharya. I immediately want to go to
We just get a look
the
at that timing.
yeah.
of the day.
So the practice point of view, as you can see,
Yeah.
yes,
What is the pitta time? What is the kapha time? The
10
timing of the
10
day.
a.m. to 2
This
p.m.
time.
Yes,
We can talk about that in the afternoon also if we want to. Yeah.
but the pitta time is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is the best time to eat, by the way. And
The opposite, the kapha time, which is the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
so that's why you will see kapha time, which is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. The digestion, the jatharagni and other metabolism are relatively less. So that's why breakfast. We do breakfast, right? In the kapha time, mild exercise and breakfast. But
So you're
one
saying
should,
lunch should be heavier than the
yes,
breakfast?
yes.
Should be the most heavier.
Lunch should be heavier. That should be our main meal actually. And in the evening time, this PK food, which we had 2 days ago, if everybody remembers, ideal. But I quickly want to go to the practice component and whatnot. So, I already mentioned that I think once we start taking these courses, CMEs, that always supports in a way, because with that, if you remember, we have to send CME certificate to our insurance company also. Of course, you yourself become confident how you implement. As Dr. Prasad mentioned, as long as you are offering a traditional proved alternative and you document, and the patient says, no, I don't want metformin, I don't want GLP-1, that opens up the kind of introduction to this. That's exactly what I do. I offer them the traditional proved alternative first, but you will in a day, and I'm talking about not about Indian patient, even American patients also, their first reaction is, give me the alternative, give me some herb or some alternative over the counter. And we do that for cholesterol also, by the way. So if there is a mild hyperlipidemia, I'm going to tell them omega-3. And in fact, I tell them red yeast rice also. Again, some of these herbs, you are right about red yeast rice, or some of them have a liver toxicity, including ashwagandha also, by the way. It also is dose dependent, but it also is dependent on whether they also consume alcohol, high carbohydrate intake. So many times, I think the correlation is not very pure in terms of that this is what it has done. But yes, we have to be careful about ashwagandha or red yeast rice also, for that matter. But those are available for hyperlipidemia, and we do that anyway. So why not for Ayurveda? So I don't see that.
Related side effects than or related side effects in this country.
Yes,
People
that's
would
it.
die from drugs.
Exactly.
Drugs need medication.
Yes. So I think I would not be afraid of practicing or
even
suggesting.
afraid. But there are doctors trained in the Western medicine. They are totally, no, I will not touch anything. They are more worried about the malpractice and all.
I tell
This
you,
is what I've seen.
I think if we
Answer to that is that's why we need to educate the medical community.
yes,
And educate the people.
and
Yeah.
Then
I
only you
give
can-
my own example. That's why that I have been practicing. I was completely so-called against Ayurveda, partly not against it, but because I was not aware, I was not educated enough. So therefore, if someone asks me, I will say, don't do it. That was kind of a natural response, but actually I was ignorant about it.
I've done 30 years of alternative medicine, and my patients understood. I made them, and I kept my prebiotic diabetic patients never developed diabetes for over 15 years. So it is possible.
Yeah, so then we should not have that concern about Ayurvedic
Yeah.
compound either. If we don't have a problem with peptides and stem cell patches and these and that, which are very costly, I'm just saying that. So we should not be afraid. In my practice, I have never faced that issue, by the way.
Also, I think if you look at the studies of allopathy, there are side effect profiles are this long.
Right.
Pharmacy, and we still have to get it. And then you look at the benefit, it's about 40%.
Or 30%.
And
whatever
it
is it.
depends how they show the graph. Sometimes they show the graph from
Agreed.
these drug graphs those days.
You have
So when you order any Ayurvedic medicine, how do you tell the patient to get it? Like you just tell.
So again, I generally don't suggest the Indian source primarily because of the contamination issue. So for my patient, I tell them there are 2 or 3 these sources: Banyan Botanical, MAPI. There is a Kerala, Kotakala, USA is
Kotakka.
yeah. Now, for the first time last year, Kedila Lab actually came out with the Ayurvedic line of products. Hopefully, and I'm going to visit the actually plant this time when I go to India. But I think because of the financial reward, I think more and more companies are going to do great job with minimal or no contamination, which is one of the issue actually. That was one of our board question, by the way. How much percentage of products coming from India are contaminated? So it was like a board question. 33%. 33% almost. So that's like 1 out of 3
Yeah.
product coming from India. So I don't.
Different sites, they go on this side.
Yeah, so no, we used to keep MAPI products before COVID actually in our office. But I think last 3-4 years, since COVID and otherwise issues with MAPI, I think there. But so we used to keep MAPI and Banyan Botanical product in the office. Certain, yes, exactly. So that is a very easy to do. So this is about malpractice. I wanted to go quickly about the coding part. So there is a code called 99215. This is the highest code in the office practice. And if we spend time and if we document that 50% or more time has been spent in education, counseling, so and so forth, which we do, easy you can build that 2 or 3 times a year actually. So I think there is a way of doing this now.
40 minutes of which more than 50%.
Yes, exactly.
Counseling for the total
And-
for 215. 214 is I think 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it pays around $110 or $120, which is not bad.
Yeah, allows to actually bill for time.
Yes.
Which, there's a code for it, which I don't use.
So this is what I do. There are other codes, actually, the multiple codes. See, they're all Z codes and whatnot. And all of those codes
The
also.
dietary counseling code.
Yes. But you can see how many, there is actually spiritual and religious counseling. There is a lack of physical exercise. There is a problem lifestyle related code. There is exercise counseling. So we talk about yoga or meditation. But anyway, by the way, I still feel myself as a practicing integrative physician, I don't still feel complete because I feel like that there is a much more to learn, especially the Ayurvedic pharmacology is something that I want to, we want to sit down with MIU, and if there is like a smaller courses, just for say, for example, Ayurvedic pharmacology, if someone doesn't want to go for 2-year fellowship, I think the Ayurvedic pharmacology course or knowledge about that could be a shorter course for a practicing physician. I think that is one of my suggestion to MIU, and we'll be talking more on those lines. That we know a lot of other things, but if we can get this Ayurvedic pharmacology, that would be a very helpful.
No, because